DBT program, we have set upon on developing along with Puran Gaur, Manish Varshney group led by Dr. Varshney, a development of a training population. The training population, unlike your what you call as mapping population, is advanced and stable breeding lines where breeder can carry out a selection, may include almost all the elite lines. And what we have done is the 15 years of trials that ICRISAT has conducted in a coordinated program. From that, we have selected the best. We had the Kabuli lines as well as the Desi lines. It was a 320 line set training program. We evaluated in 3 seasons over 2 particular locations in 2 environments. We have done, that time it was the DART sequencing or axiom SNP arrays. And we could identify about 799 DART markers and 693 DART markers. They used a large amount of modeling techniques to make these markers. Now, for some of the friends who are looking at genomic selection for the first time, particularly for my breeder friends or physiologist group, now a elite line or an elite variety, here as a crop improvement person, line which is yielding high or having certain donor, has certain unique characters. But at the same time, since most of these lines are unique, but they also have a common set of gene pool. What we wanted to do in this particular thing is capture this common set of gene pool. At the same time, capture those unique genes or markers. For example, some lines having resistance to fusarium wilt, some were having for Ascochyta blight. So use this marker repertory to carry the next generation of lines, right? So you need to individually develop your training populations. You need to individually validate the models. So we have used a large amount of models, whether it is ridge regression, kinship, or lasso or forest. And we have seen that there were very good prediction accuracies. Now, the prediction accuracy, unlike other crops, we had for certain individual traits ranging as high as 0.89 to 0.91, but also very good for complex or what you call as dependent traits like drought susceptibility index, seed yield under stress, and also very high heritable traits, 100 seed weight and days to flowering. Now, what we started looking is, can we actually make a set of selections? Then we said that since we are having the Kabuli and the Desi lines, we need to actually look whether the selection prediction efficiencies are same in Kabuli versus Desi. And we started looking how Kabuli predicts Desi, how Desi predicts Kabuli. And when we started looking at the simulation models, we have seen that Kabuli is able to predict Desi better in case of what you call as seed weight, whereas Desi is able to predict Kabuli better in case of harvest index or biomass. So we started looking and we started separating these particular groups, and we could clearly see that the groups have clustered among themselves between whether they are originated from ICRISAT Kabuli or whether they were ICRISAT Desi or they were IRI Desi or IRI Kabuli with some overlappings. Now, basically what happened is, now we started making individual prediction accuracies and started looking at the phenotypic values that we obtained. And we clearly saw that it is always good that you make Kabuli based predictions for Kabuli selections and Desi based predictions for Desi training sets. But since I was a basic breeder, I said, and what happened is Nicholas as well as Manish Rurkiwal under this program led by Rajiv Varshney could actually make some predictions for different characters. Now you should understand genomic selection is basically to identify the parents in level 1, that is cycle 1, cycle 2, so that you are able to cross among these higher genomic value parents and then build the next cycle, which is having better genetic gain per se than the base population. Ideally, whether you are following genomic selection or you are not following genomic selection, breeders or as students of plant breeding, we are taught that we should actually evaluate the breeding value of our parents and the next generation to identify those lines which are having better breeding value to actually propagate that. I hope most of the breeders do that and are aided by bioinformatics people. So the genomic selection, what it does, it increases the accuracy and efficiency of predicting this breeding value, the genomic assisted breeding value. The genomic assisted breeding value can be predicted even in rapid generation advance, where you are not looking at yield and you are relying on the yield based on the molecular data of the model that you have fit in. But now comes the question, and that's what I've asked Rajiv. Rajiv, does it actually predict? If I look how your genomic selection based lines would perform based to my conventional phenotypic biometric based selection, I said I would like to compare before I jump into this program. And that's what I have done based on the genomic prediction values that has been given by Rajiv and his group. And based on the phenotypic prediction, what we have done, we have given about 3,000 lines for SNP genotyping. And Manish has given me a set of 200 lines, the best based on the regression model of, for example, drought susceptibility index, seed yield, then other yield parameters. And I have done my own phenotypic selection, 3,000 lines, post-harvest observations, yield per se of the plants. And then we evaluated 200 best based on the genomic selection as well as 200 best what is there on the phenotypic selection. And when we started looking, number one, what we could identify is the genomic prediction better predicted or predicted equal to as the phenotypic prediction, right? You may ask me then why I need to go it. See, this is 1 year of phenotypic prediction. If I had to do these predictions every year in the same environment, I will take 8 years. In rapid generation advancement, generally we do it at off-season facility where we rapidly generate, or you use the greenhouse facilities as given by Dr. Gaur and Samineni, where we can use 6 generations. But we are just what you are doing using a single seed descent. You are carrying all this. So maybe for a cross, I need to carry about 300 to 400 lines. Or if I'm doing just a sampling and doing 1 or 2 lines of sowing or 3 lines sowing bulking, I may be losing most important lines, which would have otherwise yielded better. So that is one. Now, if you look above on this particular table, you look that the percentage of prediction accuracy was almost 80% or more in most of the traits. And most importantly, the visual selection based seed output, whereas the marker based seed output almost gave 400% better lines. Now, initially we had certain limitations because the total number of individuals in our training set was 315. I do understand it was very, very low. It need to be very, very high. So the total number of markers, we didn't use a single platform. We had SNPs, we had DARTs. Now Manish is working on this. Dr. Rajiv is leading, where we thought along with the ACRP system, we'll use almost all the released cultivars, we'll use all the lines in our advanced trials. We'll also use all the varieties and the donors and then regress this into the best fit model to carry out and identify parents that we can indicate for different breeding centers, which can be used for the first cycle and the second cycle selection. In brief, friends, when we start looking into it, the next generation genomic approaches are very much useful to develop climate change ready crops. whether it is here or whether it is in any other crop. But at the same time, it is very important that there is a need to develop the basic resources, which the biotechnologist and the bioinformatics. Luckily, we have a very good bioinformatics person, Abhishek Srivastav, who is actually looking at gene ontology studies. Uh, whether it is the genomic resources, whether it is the genetic maps, whether it is the genome sequence assemblies. Thanks to the Center of Excellency in Genomics, which has actually made this orphan crop into a genomic resource rich crop. Thanks, Rajiv. Then similarly, we require a good germplasm collection or a breeding population that need to be phenotyped of traits of interest. My predecessors, Shyam Singh Yadav, J. Kumar Deshmukh, Dr. Hari Upadhyay from ICRISAT, they have done an extensive phenotyping of these germplasms, which is now being used for developing of core, whether it is going to be used and further for developing of what you call as reference sets. Good amount of work is required to identify the QTLs. Most important is to validate these QTLs or the candidate genes through functional validation and annotation. Once it is done, you need to actually choose where we have to go for marker assisted recurrent selection, or how much percentage of this variation should be expressed to use that QTL for marker assisted back cross breeding, or how do we approach for genomic selection or forward breeding. And then of course the new technologies are coming. Friends, I would like to say that this PPT was not my alone. I was greatly assisted by my students as well as my friends, Sneha, Neeraj, Supriya, Jorben, who is my doctoral student currently with me, Sneha with me, Nilesh, Harish, Tapan, who was with me, now is a project scientist in ICARDA, Uma Shankar, Apurva, Sangeeta, we have Patil, Madan Pal, my physiologist friend. Then we had Dr. Hegde, Dr. Sailesh Tripathi, as well as Dr. Chauhan, who takes very judiciously all these field experiments. Then from ICRISAT Patancheru, excellent partnerships, very sound, from Manish Rurkiwal, Rajiv Varshne, now Anu Chitikneni and Mahendra Tudi also joining. Similarly, from National Institute of Plant Biotechnology, we have Jane Nimme is joining slowly for salt tolerance. PAU Ludhiana, excellent field phenomics and evaluation facilities, wide hybridization by Dr. Sarvjit Singh and Shaila Bindra. Then IIPR Kanpur, my good friend Dr. Soren, Dr. Aditya Pratap, Dr. Chaturvedi, who was leading these programs and also giving guidance, now moved to the Central Agricultural University, Jhansi. My mentor, Dr. N.P. Singh, and good senior colleague and good guidance by Dr. Dikshit. Then a whole lot of team from NIPGR, as I was leading quite number of collaborative projects with Sabhyata Bhatia, with which we have initially developed the maps which we published in Nature Scientific Reports, or with Swaroop Parida. Initially, we are working with Dr. Praveen Verma. And at the same time, we were looking at a different approach of submergence tolerance. You may ask, what does submergence tolerance has to do? Now, India is looking at Northeast Plain zones. And here, what you call as the submergence due to winter rains is very, very high. And we are looking what particular genes or pathways lead to this. And interestingly, what Jagdish, with whom I'm collaborating on this program, is also finding that some of these genes have a role in playing abiotic stress pathways. And also my friend Satish Sanwal from Karnal and other groups. That's what I have. And friends, there is a whole lot of work that is going on, genomic assisted breeding in other labs too. I don't say this is only going on in my lab. a lot of work in CEG, a lot of work in NIPGR, a lot more to be added. But what I have used here in my particular lecture is solely the work or the collaborative work that has taken place from the Chickpea program of IRI, along with its collaborative national partners. Again, I thank Shuvo, a good friend, Soma, and the webinar hosting team of BioEngine, Liberty, Jacinta, and Neha. Excellent initiative. And I wish these webinars grow, because these are non-profit and they're doing only for science. Thank you, Shivo. Thank you, everyone. I'm open for questions.